Hi everyone, today we're going to be checking out one of my favorite Atreyu tracks, X's and O's. If it's your first time to my channel, you'll find a lot of full song tutorials here where I cover the complete track and always include complete and accurate on-screen tab for you to learn quickly and easily. So if that sounds good to you, hit like and subscribe and let's get right into it. The first thing that we have to talk about is just the tuning, which is drop D but then down a whole step. So we've got this. We're down pretty low, right? So that's actually a C. You have to drop your low E down to a D and then one more whole step down to a C. And then the A string goes down to a G. The D string goes down to a C. The G string goes down to an F. The B string goes down to an A. And the high E string goes down to another D. So we're quite far down there, right? So tune up and let's get right into it. Here's the intro of the song and then we'll break that whole thing down. The intro to X's and O's is 16 measures, and really it's just an 8 measure chord progression that repeats for a total of 16, so we just have to learn 8 measures and then repeat them, and there's our intro. The intro riff that we're going to learn also plays underneath a little leady type bit in the chorus, so learning this intro riff will get us through a nice portion of the song. Now, this intro riff, we only have to learn 4 chords. We're going to start with an E power chord by barring the second frets on the 2 low strings. And I'm going to refer to these chords as if we were on a standard drop D guitar, not down a whole step. Because if we were to put this on a tuner right now, it would read as a D power chord, right? But that's how it would actually sound. But let's just refer to them as if we were on a drop D standard guitar. That's how everybody thinks about it, right? It makes it easier. So that's an E power chord that we start with. Then we're going to move up to the 5th fret power chord on the A string. That's a D power chord. Move it down a whole step to the 3rd fret on that A string. There's a C power chord. And now this next one, there's a couple of ways that you could analyze that, but I'm going to refer to it as a B augmented because our next chord's an E. It has a very strong 5-to-1 resolution. So we'll refer to that as a B augmented. And you know, it's B resolving back to E. So we have that 5-1 resolution. Okay, so those are our 4 chords: E, D power chord, C power chord, and B augmented. Now let's talk about the rhythm that we're going to do with those. Grab that E and we're going to do this. Okay, so there's a syncopation over the bar line. They do use pendulum strumming for this. You don't quite get the feel, I find, if you just try to use all down. So if you watch live footage, they're doing a lot of down-up strumming. So you want to grab that and we go 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, now that's where we're going to tie over the bar line. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. And 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, so all that we're doing is missing a downstroke on beat 1. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Miss on that beat 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, so that's our rhythm. Okay, now one little subtlety that you can put in there if if this is easy for you and you want to get a little bit more technical, you can hit the strings in that first measure. Kind of put a palm mute on, but it's going to be a very light palm mute. You don't want to have a palm mutey sound. You just kind of want to, you want those upstrokes to pop out, accent the upstrokes a little bit. Right? If you listen closely to the album, those upstrokes are accented. Kind of like that, right? And it's just on that first measure of each chord. You want to have that. Okay, so now that very last upstroke, you can hit some open strings. Okay, and now this is the only chord where we're going to use all downstrokes. And what we do is we hit that D power chord, followed by 2 palm muted chugs on the low string. So we're gonna do that 4 times in total. Okay, so you hit that chord and 2 chugs, do that 4 times. And then hit that power chord 3 times. And then we're gonna get into our next chord. So let's put those 2 chords together so you've got it. Here they are, nice and slow. Okay, now we're gonna go to that C power chord, and this is where we can just repeat what we've already learned. We're just gonna repeat that same rhythm that we learned on our first E power chord. So, exact same rhythm, drop that first finger and repeat that same rhythm. Okay, so we're gonna put all 4 of those chords together. Here we go. Okay, and as you noticed in my slowed down performance there, I just repeated all those chords twice, the exact same thing the second time, except when you come to that last chord, you're just gonna play a measure and a half, right? That 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and then we're gonna get into the verse riff. And I'll just quickly show you that little run, but we are going to talk about it again when we cover the whole verse. That's just on the A string, 5, 3, 2, back to our E power chord. Okay, so there you go. There's the whole intro riff that the rhythm is playing. And now we'll talk about the lead. So the lead starts off with just a simple little climb up the B string, and pretty much this the whole intro solo is on the B string. But we start on the 5th fret of the B string, 7 and 8. Okay, just pick the 8th fret twice, 5, 7, 8, 8. Now a very cool little thing. Okay, so we slide into the 5th fret, put a palm mute on the 7th fret of the G string. Okay, we're gonna have to use a finger roll here. Roll up to the 7th fret of the B string, back to 2 palm mutes on that 7th fret of the G string, then pinky on the 8th fret of the B string, back to 2 palm mutes on the 7th fret of the G string. Put that all together. Then do that finger roll to the 7th fret of the B string again, with the 2 palm mutes on the G string. And so that little bit. Okay, so now that we have to go, we do a little shift there, and we go, put your first finger on the 7th fret of the B string, and then you're gonna hammer onto 8, back to 7, slide down to 5, and then slide down to 3. Okay? Now, so once you're on that 3rd fret, hit 5, up to 7, then you go 10, 8. Okay, so our intro solo so far goes like this. Then to finish it off, okay, we go 7, 8, 10, bend 10. And there's a lot of syncopation there too. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. So all those notes that are on upbeats, right? So you gotta work on really feeling the offbeats to nail that part. So the first half of our solo goes like this. Now the second half of the intro lead, we repeat a large portion. This is all the same. And at this point, okay, it branches off a little bit there, gets a bit different. So we hit 5, 7, slide up to 10 and hit that twice. And then slide up to 12 and down to 8. And then that's a little bit different too at the end. We have a little trem pick on the 7th fret. So I call it trem picking, but really you could think of it as 16th notes too, because I hit it 6 times. Like I just think of it more as like 1E and a 2E and then that keeps it solidly in time, right? But what you just want to make sure that you're hitting the 8th fret right on the end of 2. And then to 10, bend 13. Okay, so there's the lead for you in the intro. Here it is, the whole thing nice and slow. And then we get into the verse. Here we go with that. Okay, so again in verse 1 we have 2 guitar parts to talk about. So let's cover guitar 1 here first. We come out of that intro directly into the verse with this little run. So we're going 5, 3, 2 on the A string, and then that E power chord barring the 2nd frets on the 2 low strings. And we're going to let that ring for 3.5 whole measures before we come in with another bass run. Okay, and that bass run that you hear is 5, 4, 2 on the low string, followed by the 2 low strings open. Okay, and then we get this. Our next run is 0, 2, 4, 0 on the low string. Okay, and then we go to this octave shape. So what we want to do is fret the 3rd fret on the A string with our first finger, and then your pinky is going to hit the 5th fret on the G string, and then your first finger will just naturally mute out the D string between them, right? So you can hit all 3 of those strings, and you're only going to hear the 2 that you're fretting ring out. And when you get good at it, you can hit more strings, and these fingers will be taking care of muting off those other strings as well. Okay, so we're going to strum a measure and a half of just 8th notes. Okay, so it's just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and then we're gonna start repeating there. So we repeat well, let's just do the first half of the verse nice and slow. The first half, the first 8 measures is this. Okay, and then we get into some repeating where again, that's all the same. Then our second run, 5, 4, 2 to the opens, and then so everything's the same except for that very last measure. We start off by strumming those octave shapes on the 3rd fret, 3 and 5. 1 measure of that. Come up a whole step to 5 and 7 in just 2 beats. And then we come down to the 2nd fret, so 2 and 4 on G. Okay, so that's that whole guitar part. So the whole guitar one, verse one part goes like this. Okay, then we get into guitar 2, which is layered up on top, and that starts off the same. It plays the first 6 measures identical to guitar 1. So we've got that 5, 3, 2, E power chord, bar the 2nd frets. And then on the low string, 5, 4, 2, open. And then we don't bother with that. We just jump up. We jump up, and these are all octave shapes here. Okay, we have a little 2-bar thing that we repeat around and around for the rest of the verse here. So what we want to do is slide into the 14th fret on A and put our pinky on the 16th fret of G. So just like guitar 1 that we talked about, that's an octave. So use the same technique, your first finger and your pinky, and you'll just pretty much naturally mute off that D string between them. So you can pick those 3 strings and you're only going to hear the 2 that you're fretting. So we want to slide into that and just go down, up. And then we want a low open D string in there. And then we're going to come down to the 9th fret. So we're just sliding up and down the same string set the whole time. Our fingers aren't moving strings. So we want to come down to the 9th fret. And we're going to do 3 strums on that. Okay, so 3 strums on that 9th and 11th frets. Slide it up 1/2 step to 10 and 12, and another 3 strums. And then come down to the 7th fret, so 7 and 9. Okay, and then we're going to strum 8th notes for the rest of that measure. Okay, so we've got this nice and slow. I'll count that out for you. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, so we're going to play that 4 times. And on the 5th time, we play a little bit of a difference. So just play that 4 times. And on the 5th and final time, we play this. Okay, so on that last time, again, start on 14 and 16. Hit the low open D. Down to 9. 3 times, up to the 10th. Just twice, okay? Open D. And then we're going to slide up to 15 and 17. 3 times. Back to our starting 14 and 16 for our final one. So that last time again, nice and slow. Okay, so guitar 2 part, nice and slow through all of verse 1, goes like this. And then we get into the chorus, which goes like this. Okay, so as I'm sure you noticed, the main rhythm guitar is the same as we had in the intro underneath the lead solo. So just refer back to that earlier chapter for a full breakdown of that riff. I won't go over it again. And then we do have this new rhythm guitar part. Right, that one layered up, so it's kind of a rhythm part, kind of a leady part, but it's not too bad here. It starts off really nice and simple. All that we're doing is fretting notes along the B string and letting the high E string ring open at the same time. So first finger on the 5th fret of the B string, then use your 3rd finger to go down to the 7th fret of the B string, and then pinky on the 8th fret for the rest of that, right? And we want to change 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the very last 8th note, come back to that 5th fret with your 1st finger. And then we're going to get into our next bit. Okay, so that the first 2 measures. Okay, so this next 2 measures is very reminiscent of that intro solo, right? Where we just had the single line. Right, very reminiscent of that. So what we're gonna do now is start with 5 on the B string, 7 on the G string. Okay, and he doesn't do the palm muting every time. It's really in the second chorus that you can really hear really strong palm muting between everyone. So you can also just go. You can just ring them all for the first chorus if you're playing it, you know, live with a band. You can just kind of ring them for the first chorus and then just put the palm mute, as I'm going to show you here, for the second time around. But it's all the same notes every time he plays it. So hit that 5 and the 7, 5 on B, 7 on G, and then 2 palm mutes. And then put your pinky down on the 7th of B, so you're gonna have 2, 7 and 7. Hit that, and you can come back down for 2 more palm mutes. Sneak your pinky up to the 8th fret on the B string, so you've got 8 and 7 on G. And just let that ring, take your palm mute off, and put it back on for 2 hits. So far we have this. Come back to the 7th fret. Okay, so hit the 7th, you can put 2 more palm mutes on there. And then hit it 4 more times to fill up that measure. So we have this. Okay, then for the next 2 measures, we go back to exactly the same thing that we just had for the first 2 measures. And then okay, so now we're sliding up to 7 on B and 8 on G, and hit that 3 times. So then put your 3rd finger on the 8th fret of B, so we have 8 and 8. And then put your pinky all the way out to 10, so we have 10 on B, 8 on G. And we're gonna play the rest 8 notes again up to the end of that 2 measures with that. So nice and slow, those 2 measures. Right? And make sure you have that syncopation right. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so that's the first half of the chorus. The progression repeats around again, and it's the exact same thing the second time as well. So the whole chorus, nice and slow, goes like this. And we get out of the chorus directly into our second verse with that little bass note run and into our second verse. So the second verse is actually quite a bit different in the second half than the first verse. So I'll give it a play through with both guitars so that you can hear exactly what's going on, and then I'll break both guitar parts down. Here we go. So verse 2, quite a bit different in the second half than what we had in verse 1. And both guitars are pretty much playing the same thing the whole way through, except for the last two measures where we have some harmonized octaves happening again. So we start off the same, where we have 5, 3, 2 on the A string, and then bar the second frets with that E power chord. And then come down to the low string, 5, 4, 2 opens. And then 0, 2, 4, 0 on that low string. Now we want to hit our octave shape on 3 on A, 5 on G. And then that's where we're going to get a little bit different for the second half of our verse. So we're just filling up a measure and a half. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and this is what we're going to change a little bit here. So we start as we did before, 5, 3, 2 on the A string, but then we want to come down to 5 on the low string, and then 2 on the low string. And then we're just going to palm mute that E power chord where we bar the second frets, right? Back to that 5th fret with our pinky, back to the E power chord. Okay, so that's the whole thing. And then we're gonna go 5, 4, 2, 2, hit that second fret twice. Okay, and the first time you hit it, there's a palm mute on it. Second time, take the palm mute off to the open. And then we're just going to start palm muting the open D power chord there. And then we've got our 0, 2, 4, 0 bass run. Now guitar 1 is going to strum this octave on 3 on A and 5 on G again. And we're going to slide all the way up to 7 and 9 on G. Okay, so we're making that switch on 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Okay, so guitar 1's verse 2 is going to look like this. Okay, so no need to go over all that again for the second guitar part. It's the exact same except the last two measures where we have those octaves harmonizing. We have this for guitar 2's part. Okay, so we're starting on 7 on A, 9 on G. And then we want to move up to 9 and 11. And then all the way up to 15 and 17, okay? Okay, and it's just straight eighth notes again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So just to put that into context for you, it would do this. And there you go, there's the second verse. Put those guitars together and you get exactly what it is on the album. And now the next thing that we have to talk about is the whole bridge section. So again, I'll give it a playthrough and we'll break it down. So as you may have just heard in the performance, the bridge section of this song that starts at 1 minute and 36 seconds actually has 3 distinct guitar parts, but because I can really only fit 2 on the screen so that you can see what's going on, I just put the 2 main ones, but there is a little arpeggiated line that goes over top that I'll show you so you have everything. Now the main guitar that's supplying the main chordal harmony is just playing a lot of the same power chords that we've already learned. We're going to start on C on the 3rd fret of the A, and we're just going to play that power chord and just do down up strumming and 1 measure of 8th notes. And that, that's just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and now we're going to drop our first finger down to the 2nd fret for that B augmented, strum a measure of 8th notes. The last up strum can be the open 2 bottom strings, an open D power chord, as we move down to an E, bar those 2nd frets, and a measure of 8th notes. Slide your first finger up to the barred 5th frets, the 2 low strings, measure of 8th notes. Now up to the C, repeat that. We're going to do 3 beats of this B augmented, and then we palm mute the 2 low strings as we get into the last syncopated bit of the progression. So we palm mute those 2 low strings, and then we go bar the 1st frets on the 2 low strings and go up, 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 up. Come to the 2nd frets barred, go up, 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 down, up. And that last up, again, release your fingers for the 2 low open strings. And then we're going to jump up to our C power chord and repeat the progression. Okay, so the first half of the progression, nice and slow, goes like this. Now we're going to just repeat around, but we just tack a little extra on at the end of the progression the second time around. So I'll play it nice and slow for you the second half. Okay, so as you can see, we started with those barred 1st frets to end this, to the 2nd frets, then back to the 1st, moving to that 2nd fret on that final up for a nice clean cutoff, right? And then the solo kicks in at that point, okay? So that covers what the main harmony is doing through the bridge. And now we again have some octaves layered on top of that to really beef up the sound. Nothing hard going on there at all. We've already done harder octave figures in this song than this. This is just strumming an octave per measure basically. So we start on the 7th fret of A and the 9th fret of G and just strum that for a measure. Move up to 9 on A and 11 on G, strum that for a measure. Move up 1 more half step, strum that for a measure. Come all the way down to the 5th fret on A and 7 on G and strum that for a measure. Back up to our starting point at 7 and 9. Then move back up to 9 and 11. Okay, and then on the final up strum on that measure, we're going to move up to the 10 and 12. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and Okay, and then we get into our syncopated figure from there. So once you slide up to that 10th fret, you go up, 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 up. Come down to the 7th fret again, so 7 and 9, and up, 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 down. So you want to slide down to 5 and 7, and then quickly down to all the way to 2 and 4. So it's a pretty quick movement there. Okay, so the first half of the bridge section with this octave guitar goes like this. Okay, and then you're going to quickly slide back up to repeat, and we just do the same thing again. We go measure on this 7th fret, up to 9, up to 10, down to 5, up to 7, up to 9. Now this changes. Okay, so on that final upstroke, the second time around, you want to come down to 6 and 8, okay? And then we get into that same syncopated rhythm. And we just slide up a half step where the chord changes there up to 7 and 9. And then back down to 6 and 8. And then we just end it on the coming back up to 7 and 9. Okay, so the second half of that bridge with the octave guitar, here we go. And now we just have to talk about the arpeggiated figure that you hear over top of these guitars. So I'll give it a quick performance playthrough just so you can see it, how it actually is going to look and sound, and then I'll break it down for you. Okay, so I just played through the progression once, but it repeats exactly the same the second time around too. So what we're doing is we're starting on 7 on the high string, 8 on the B string, and 9 on the G string, okay? Okay, so we're gonna go E, B, G, E, and then B, G, E. Right, put that together. Okay, now it also sounds like there's slightly less distortion on this guitar part because everything's ringing together. So if you have a lot of distortion on, it's probably not going to sound that pleasing. So you might want to just roll your volume back or some way of cleaning the sound up, right? Now at that point, you want to sneak your pinky out to the 11th fret of G, and we're going to go B, G, E. Do that twice. Okay, so put those two chords together, we've got this. And now we want to come back to the 9th fret to our starting chord, and we're just going to go B, G, E, B, G, E. Okay, but that last time up to the E string, put your pinky down on the 10th fret because we're going to change chords here. And then we're going to keep our second finger on the 8th fret, but put your first finger now on the 7th fret of the G string. So we really just have a G power chord there with a D as our lowest note. But we're going to go B, G, E again one more time. And then to finish this off, you want to go, you're going to put your third finger down on the 9th fret and hit that B string and the 9th fret on G. And then we can repeat the first two chords again. We'll have our 7, 8, 9 again. Out to the 11th fret. And that's where we end, okay? So I'll just play all this through nice and slow for you, and then you'll have it. Okay? And the syncopation is probably the hardest part on that guitar, right? Other than that first chord where we play on a beat 1, everything is just starting on an upbeat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Right? So you're missing all those downbeats, starting always on an upbeat. So that's probably the trickiest part of that guitar part. But then we're moving into our solo now. And the rhythm part, we can blast through that pretty quick. Not much new going on there, but I'll give it a quick play for you and then we'll break it down before we get into the actual lead. So the rhythm under the solo, all elements that we've discussed before, nothing new here. I'll just quickly break it down, give you a quick run through. We're starting on the C power chord, 3rd fret of the A string, and do 2 measures of down up strumming through that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And on that last upstroke, get those open bottom strings as we transition to our E power chord, bar the 2nd frets, 2 measures of that. Again, strum some open strings with that last up strum as we come back to the C power chord and do almost 2 measures of that, but stop on beat 4 of that 2nd measure. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? We're going to get into that syncopated figure that we had in the bridge. Right, where we're barring the 1st and the 2nd frets. And then that's 8 measures. It just repeats again exactly the same way with a little bit more syncopation at the end the 2nd time like we had in the bridge again, right? So the 2nd time it would be our C power chord, E, back to the C, second frets, A 1st frets, ending on that 2nd fret there. So it just goes a measure longer that 2nd time around. And then we're gonna bust into an interlude section for our next section. But before we do that, let's talk about those leads. Both Travis and Dan have a lead in this one, but they overlap nice. So I'll play it all together as one. And here we go with that. The solo has a lot of neat little aspects to it. Travis takes the first 8 bars and he starts off with 3 harmonics. Okay, so we're gonna play harmonics on the 7th frets of the E and B strings and then on the 5th fret of the G string. So just lightly rest your fingers right over top the fret wire and pluck the string without actually pushing and you'll get those harmonics to ring out nice. Okay, and then we come up to a slow unison bend. You don't wanna just bend right up to the unison bend. It's kind of a slow bend. So we're gonna fret the 12th fret of the high string and the 15th fret of the B string. And then we slowly bend that B string up a whole step to match that E pitch, right? And then we come down to the 12th fret of B. Okay, so far we have this. Now we get into a fast little run. Okay, so we pick up into it by going 12 and 13 on the B string, and then we get into our straight picking 16th notes. Okay, so it kind of follows a pattern. It goes 3-3-2, and if you can remember that, 3-3-2, 3-3-2, it's a little bit easier. So what we're gonna do is pick a note on the 12th fret of the high string, followed by 2 open E strings. Okay, so that's a group of 3. And then we come down to the B string and do the same thing. We go 12, open, open. So that's another group of 3. Then we come down to the G string and just go 12, open. And that's just a group of 2. So we have 3, 3, 2. Okay, and then we go 3, 3, 2 again. We go 11 on the G string, followed by 2 opens. So that's our group of 3. Come back up to the 12th fret, 2 opens. That's another group of 3, and then back to the 11th for our group of 2. Okay, so we have 3, 3, 2, 3, 3, 2. Okay, and then after that, so we've got this. We slide into the 9th fret on G, come down to the 8th fret, and then come all the way down to 4. And there's a slight pinch harmonic on that, okay? Okay, so now our next phrase, I look at this as really just moving power chords up the neck. It's an inverted power chord though, because we have the 5th in the bass. But if we look at the top 2 strings, we have a D and an A on the 3rd and the 5th frets of the B and E. It's just a power chord, right? But now we're also taking an A and putting it on the G string. So we have A, D, A. So it's really just an inverted power chord. Okay, and then we're just taking that idea and moving it diatonically in the key of E minor up the neck. So E is going to be the same shape, right? E and our 5th B. Now the next one, this is why our shape is going to change. And don't worry, I'll break the whole lick down for you, but our shape is going to change here because we have an F sharp to C. So that's our diminished 5th in that key. So we just have to change our shape for that one interval. Right, the 2nd degree interval in the E minor scale. And then we're back to our normal shape with a G and A power chords. Right, so we're just sliding these shapes up the neck. So now we have to arpeggiate them as we go. So what we're doing is we're starting on our 2nd fret of G, and then go 3, 5, up through the B and the E strings. And then slide up to 7. And you're going to want to use some sort of economy picking or sweep picking motion for this. I go down, down, down for these first ones. And then slide. And then I'll go up, up, down again. So when I slide up to the 7th fret with my pinky, I go up, up on 5 and 4 on G. So 5 on B, 4 on G. And then a down, moving my finger quickly up to 5 on the G string. So to start repeating this motion. And then from there, the picking pattern just stays the same the whole way. Okay, so we're going to go down, down again through 7 on B and 8 on the high string, and then slide up to 10. Come down through the B and the G, 8 and 7. And we're going to actually repeat this shape before we move on. So you're going to want to down pick, you double pick that 7th fret. And then go down through 8 and 10 again, slide up to 12. Use your upstrokes to come back through the B and the G strings, 10 and 9. And again, repeat that shape by double picking that 9th fret with a down. And then 10 and 12. And sliding all the way up to the 15th fret. And that's where that lick ends. So slowed it right down for you. It's going to look like this. Okay, and then we slide into the 16th fret on B. Hit that twice. Do it again. Then come up to 17. And then a 15 to 12 slide. And that takes care of the first 8 measures. That's Travis's solo, and then Dan kicks in for the next 8 measures. So here's Travis's solo, nice and slow for you. And now Dan starts his half of the solo with tapping phrase. And this is potentially the trickiest phrase in all of this, especially if you're not used to tapping. But yeah, it's good. I'll just play it for you again, nice and slow, and then we'll break it down. Okay, so once again, it's an E minor phrase. And what we're gonna do is tap the 12th fret on the high string, and I use my middle finger for this. Maybe some of you are more comfortable tucking the pick into your palm and using the index finger. That's fine, but I like to keep my pick ready and just use my middle finger. But I'm gonna tap 12 and flick off to 5. And then I'm gonna hammer 7 and 8. Okay, then I tap 12 again, 8, 7, 5. So it's kind of up the string, down the string. Come down to the B string and go 12, 8, 7, 5. And then you're going to want to hammer back 7, 8, tap 10. Okay, then release to 8, 7, 5 again. So it's like this. Now coming down to the G string, we go 9, 5, 7, 9, 7, 5. Come down to the D string and go 9, 7, 5. And we're gonna hammer out of nowhere onto that 7th fret on the A string. And then we go 9, 7, 5, slide down to 3. And that's a little bit quicker. Those last 4 notes there, he just speeds up just slightly on those. So here that whole phrase is. Okay, now we have a little simpler phrase, but it's very melodic. It's a cool little thing. We're gonna slide into 7 on A, and then 10, 9 on D. 2 palm mutes back on that 7th fret on A. Then slide up to 12 on the G string, 11, 9. Come down to the D string and go 9, 10. Okay, and put a pinch harmonic on that 10th fret if you can get it. So that little bit goes like this. Now we're going to cap this off with another quick little pentatonic-y type pull-off lick, very kind of Kirk Hammett-y actually. Okay, it's just a repeating thing where we're changing the highest note, but we go up to the B string and hit 15, and up to 12 on the E string. Now we're gonna go 15, 12, pull off, and then 15 to 12 again, that same 2 notes that we had, 15 on B and 12 on E. Okay? And once you have that, then you've got the pattern. Then we're gonna go 17 to 12, pull off, and then that 15 to 12. Okay? And then we're just gonna do the 15 to pull off one more time, and 17 pull off one more time. Okay, and then we're gonna end that with a 17th fret bend on the high string. So that little repeating phrase goes like this. Now, he hits a harmonic on the 16th fret of the B string, and we're gonna dip the bar a little bit too. And we come out of that with a 17th step, or a 17th fret bend on the B string, up 1.5 steps, and then release it to just unbent 17th fret. And then to totally end this, we come down. Okay, so we come down to 10, 8, 7 on the high string, and then 10, 8, 7 on the B string. And we do that again. And then a quick little 10, 8, 7 pull off, just pluck the 10th fret, and then do 2 pull offs through 8 and 7. Okay, so where we jump up to a unison bend, kind of how the whole thing started, 12 on the high string and 15 on the B string, and dip the bar as you're doing that unison bend. And there is Dan's 8-measure solo. So Dan's 8-measure solo, nice and slow for you, goes like this. And there are the solos. Now we get into an interlude, and here that is. Okay, so the interlude section, the lead guitar that you hear is the same as what it's doing in the chorus. Right, so we don't have to talk about that again. We've already covered that in depth. But the chords underneath, it's a slightly new progression, and the palm muting pattern is a little bit different, even though we did talk about it. It's the same as the pattern that we do in the chorus as well on the D. But what we're going to do, we start off with 8 measures in this interlude section of just ringing an E power chord for 8 measures. So bar the 2nd fret, let that ring for 8 measures. And then we get into this, that rhythmic figure. So all that it is a chord stab followed by 2 palm mutes. We do that 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just hit that power chord 4 times without a palm mute, and that's the rhythmic figure, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? Then just go to the open strings, the 2 low strings, and do that same figure. And then come up to our C power chord, 3rd fret of the A string, same figure. Just drop your first finger to that B augmented and let it ring for 2 measures. And boom, we're going to be back into our final chorus. Okay, so that rhythm guitar underneath that interlude goes like this, nice and slow. Okay, so there's the interlude, and the last thing to talk about is just the outro of the song. We play a chorus exactly how we learned, and then we even play that little run into a verse, right? Like our verses have been starting. Well, that's the outro too, except we're just going to hold that 2nd fret for a little bit longer, right? As we come out of our choruses, we've always been going 3 and 4 and we've been hitting that E power chord on the end of 4. Now to finish the song, you just go 3 and 4, 1. So you hold that B on the 2nd fret for a whole beat, going to your E power chord right on beat 1, and let that ring out. And that is the song. So on your last power chord there coming out, it would sound like this. And let that fade out, and there is the track. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this Atreyu X's and O's guitar lesson. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so that you can see more of your favorite tracks with full tab and performances of every section. I got lots more on the way. Can't wait to get going. See you next time.